Welcome, my friends, to the Bob and Brad podcast, produced by Bob and Brad, the two most famous physical therapists on the internet. I am Bob, and I'm exactly one half of the Bob and Brad team. And today, my guest is Andy Mant, and you're going to find this very interesting. I'm sure I can hear you saying this already, that you don't think this has anything to do with you, but we're going to talk about light and how it affects your life, your mood, your sleep, your stress levels, your eating, all those things, and how it can be altered to your benefit. So welcome to the show, Andy Mant.
Hey, thanks so much for having me, Bob. It's a real honor.
Likewise, the honor's all on this side. So this is a subject I don't know much about, so I'm really eager to learn, and I think we should go ahead and get started. I thought we'd start with it. Maybe if you could give your backstory, so we know who you are and why you got interested in this area.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a great place to start. And the more astute of viewers and listeners will pick up my accent is British. But I live in Australia, and I've lived in Australia for about 11 years now. And I'll tell you a little bit a little bit later on about why I moved to Australia, because it's all about to do with light. Now, I grew up in a small town in England, and throughout my life, I was very active as a kid. And then I turned into my sort of mid-20s, started to eat really badly and not exercise a lot like I was. And I put on a lot of weight, and I couldn't lose it for 5 years, right? And this was a major problem for me, a lot of health issues. And it led me to look at sort of recommendations about how to lose weight, and none of them worked. And I thought to myself, I'm going to do all this myself, and I'm going to research, I'm going to read the studies, and I'm going to look to lose weight. And I stumbled across a specific dieting protocol that worked really well for me, lost a lot of weight. And then it led me down this rabbit hole of like, well, if I can go and take matters into my own hands to improve my weight and aesthetic, what else can I improve? And sleep was one of those things that never really functioned very well for me. I always woke up feeling a bit groggy and tired, and never that great in the mornings. A lot of people suffer from this. It's real.
Right. Very, very common.
Yeah, absolutely. And it just led me to find a few doctors in the US, actually, that were talking a lot about light and its impact on something called circadian rhythms. And again, I can talk more about that later on, but I discovered that light can impact sleep-wake cycles. And if we're under the wrong light at the wrong time of day, we can impact our sleep negatively. So that led me to look into how to manage light more effectively, to bring us back to what our ancient circadian rhythms, body clocks, were used to, which would then re-entrain my sleep cycles. And I stumbled across different types of lighting, different types of sleep masks, different types of blue light blocking glasses that really helped to improve my sleep. So that is kind of in a nutshell where I'm at today, and a little bit about my background. And it all came out of this, passion really to go and research the literature and find out for myself what worked for me. And then I started a company that looked to empower people to basically understand more about light and its impact, because no one's really talking about this, and to help people really with their sleep and with their general well-being.
I see it mentioned as a side for a lot of people, but not the main subject. Andy, if you don't mind, I wonder if we could mention your website and contact information right now, because if people play this back, they'll start at the beginning. It's always a good time to mention that. So your website is?
Of course, it's blublox.com. So I'll spell that for everyone. Yeah. It's BLUBLOX.
Got it.
.com. So pretty straightforward, but some people miss out the L and call it Blue Box, but it's Blublox. It's in block blue, So and there's
great
contact form. Yeah, it's so cool, eh? And there's tons of literature on there, tons of learnings. And also some products there, you know, disclaimer, there are some products there that you can buy to help support, you know, your light management. But, you know, like I always like to caveat, Bob, as well, is I'm not really that fussed if people buy from me or not. All I want to do is educate. And as long as, like, today I'm going to give them the tools they need to understand light better, but also the tools they'll need to ask companies about their products in order to make sure that they are going to work. So there's a lot of rubbish out there. So it could be from us, could be from another company, but as long as they've got the tools, you can buy from where you want. But, you know, use our website for education. There's tons and tons of good stuff on that.
Fantastic. We're of the same ilk. My goal is to try to help as many people as I can before I'm laid down to into the cold ground. So, so is it a place to start, like talking about light? What is good light? What is bad light? I've seen you mention junk light even.
Yeah, so there's three types of light. I like to categorize it in three ways, and a lot of the, you know, world leading experts on light, like Dr. Alexander Wunsch and Dr. Jack Kruse, refer to three types of light as well. Okay, so you've got natural light. Okay, so this is the light that we've evolved under for millions of years, and it is from the sun. Okay, so the sun is full spectrum light. So think of a rainbow when it rains and it's sunny. You see all those colors. That is the colors that are contained in the sun and in natural light. And each of those colors has a positive effect on our body during the day. Okay, so sunlight changes in its frequencies throughout the day. So sometimes there's more infrared, sometimes there's more blue light, sometimes there's more red light, and they all have different effects on the body. Now, you've also got artificial light. Okay, now artificial light is a light that's been made by humans. So it's typically LED these days, or fluorescent light. And it's the kind of light you'll find, say, in your office or in your home, in the ceilings, in lamps, in your backlit digital devices like your smartphone or your laptops. They're even now in places like, you know, your modems, your LED clocks on your, you know, cooker and oven and fridge light and things like that. And what they are is they're not full spectrum light. So in order to make this light, you know, really bright and energy efficient, manufacturers have taken out some of the frequencies of light and left or intensified some of the others in. Just so happens that artificial light in all those devices that I've mentioned is typically high in something called blue light, which is high energy visible light. And then you've also then got junk light, okay? And junk light is light that is from natural sources like the sun, but it's filtered. So you could be wearing sunglasses, you could be sat behind a window or in your car, but because the light isn't passing directly from its natural source through your eyes and skin, it's altered as it passes through glass. Therefore, it changes the composition and the frequencies of light that it contains. So you're not getting the dosage of light in its natural form because it's altered by these windows. And what you find is when you start to alter light by artificial and junk light sources, you start to see negative changes in your body. Your sleep might be disrupted. If you're sat behind glass in an office and the sun is shining, you're filtering too much of different kinds of light, which can actually increase your risk of skin cancers rather than being out fully in the sun. You could be exposing yourself to artificial light after sunset, but that's not natural. So you might actually have your sleep disrupted as well. So there's those three different types of light. And really what it boils down to is getting more of the natural light and blocking and managing the artificial and junk light that you're getting in your life.
So would air pollution play a role in this at all? I mean, does that affect light?
It does, yes, absolutely. No one's ever asked me that before, so I'm really glad you have. And it also, it does. It filters it in negative ways. And this is why it's such a major issue at the moment in some of these major cities around the world. I guess China have a huge issue, not so much here in Australia, but I'd imagine the US and UK have some big issues with pollutants as well. And this is why it's, you always find that when people go camping, for instance, you go camping out of the big cities where there's a lot of pollution, and you always come away, even though you've slept on the floor or in a tent, you always come away feeling so refreshed because number one, you're not getting as much artificial light pollution, but two, you're getting the purest form of sunlight because there's hardly any pollutants in the atmosphere. There's hardly any radiation out there. It's just fantastic. So yeah.
So red light, blue light, infrared light, what are the percentages you're supposed to try to get of that? I mean,
well, it's really not a question of percentages of what you want. It really depends on the time of the day. So let me explain how blue and red light sort of work and infrared light for you guys. It might be a little bit of a time, this one, but I'll break each one down for you.
No, by all means.
Good. So let's start with our circadian rhythm, okay? Because this will help people understand it a little bit more. Yep. So circadians, it's from a Latin word, circa, which means about, and dian, which means day. So it means about a day. Now, it's a clock system that's located in our brain, okay? It's right in the suprachiasmatic nucleus. And what it does is it's a 24-hour clock, okay? So it basically mirrors the rotation of the Earth. Now, this body clock can't tell the time internally. It needs cues from the environment that you're in to tell it what time of day it is, okay? And when it can tell the time of day, it will secrete and suppress specific hormones and neurotransmitters in line with what time of day it is. Now, the major entrainer of this clock system is light. It's sunlight. Every animal has it. Plants have it as well. Photosynthesis, all that is timed through their circadian mechanisms. Now, when light passes through our eyes from sunlight in the morning, the big spike in blue light that happens at that time of the day basically starts to entrain your clock system. So it starts it ticking. And it starts to release things like serotonin and dopamine. It starts to release cortisol. Cortisol is fantastic in the mornings because it's almost that like jump start. It's the key in your ignition to get you started during your day. It gives you the energy to be active. And as the day goes on, the light in the sun changes. There becomes maybe more red, less blue, more red, depending on the time of the day. And hormones in the body will change throughout the day as that light hits your skin and passes through your eyes. Now, as the sun starts to set, we start to see, after a big spike in blue, a gradual decrease in blue light and an increase in red light. And what you find then is that sends a message to the clock system through the eyes and the skin that's saying, nighttime is coming. We need to turn down the cortisol levels, the stress hormones. We need to start releasing melatonin, which is a relaxing hormone that helps you sleep and is a really powerful antioxidant. Think of when you're watching the sunset afterwards or during it, you feel so relaxed. That's the red light that's causing that to happen. And then what would have happened back in the ancient times is we wouldn't have switched on the house light. We wouldn't have looked at our smartphone. Exactly. We would have maybe sat around a campfire, and a campfire gives out red light, very relaxing, very soothing. And we would have a really good sleep. And in the morning, the sun would rise, we would get up, the sun would entrain our clock, and we'd start again, and the whole process would continue on. Now, the problem we have today is that we get up in the mornings and the first thing we look at is this, our smartphone. Now, when you check the color temperature of your smartphone and the composition of light in the smartphone, it mirrors solar noon. So when your clock system is looking for environmental cues and you don't watch the sunrise in the morning and you look at your smartphone, your body is going to go, oh, right, it's midday. Brilliant. So you start your clock ticking from midday. So you miss out on all those amazing hormone benefits. The cortisol won't be as high. The serotonin and dopamine will be lower. And also you phase shift. So what that means is your circadian rhythm thinks it's, say, 6 hours ahead of where it should be. So if you want to go to bed at 10 o'clock at night, you might not be ready to go to bed at 10 o'clock at night. It might be midnight, 1, 2 in the morning, which is so bad for your health. And the other issue with blue light is that, as I said before, after the sun set on our ancestors, they'd have a campfire on and they wouldn't have access to any blue light. The more astute listeners out there might go, what about the moon and what about the stars? But the light intensity from those celestial bodies actually isn't enough to impact circadian rhythms. It's more of an impact on monthly rhythms. So you can forget the moon and the stars doesn't have an impact. It's been shown. So what we do now is we might miss the sunset, but let's just say we've watched the sunset. We've been good today and we've watched the sunset. We come back into our house and we open our fridge, or we start to cook dinner, or we look at our smartphones, we watch television, or even we just put our house lights on and read a book. The light that's emitted from those devices is telling our body it's solar noon again. So the cortisol levels start to rise in the evening and the melatonin levels drop, which makes it harder to sleep. And over time, chronic sleep deprivation aside, if your cortisol levels are high during the day and high during the evening, one of two things can happen. You can start to get chronic levels of cortisol, which causes chronic levels of stress, which makes you anxious, depressed, high levels of, just general stress and low mood. But also what we have seen in some studies, and I can link these at the end if needed, is that it reverses the cortisol cycle. So what you find is in the mornings, your cortisol is low because it's messing up your circadian rhythm cortisol cycle, which means when your cortisol level's low in the morning, you don't want to get out of bed. You're just like, that alarm goes off and you're just like, screw this, I'm staying in bed, which isn't natural. But then you'll get up eventually, you get showered, you go to work, and then you'll be a bit tired during the day. You might have a 3 p.m. crash. But then 9, 10 o'clock at night in the evening, your cortisol levels start jacking up again. And then you're just like, wow, yeah, I'm really wide awake here. And I don't want to be because I want to go to sleep. And it's blue light that's causing this because it's not in line with our natural circadian rhythms. So that's blue light, okay? Red light is a whole different story, okay? Red light is the opposite of blue light. So blue light excites, causes you to feel awake and alert. Red light does the opposite. It makes you feel relaxed and it actually heals as well. So you might have heard of digital eye strain. So people staring at a computer all day get sore eyes and a headache. Exactly. And that typically it's the blue light, right? That's the blue light that's on itself in isolation, penetrating your eyes for a long period. And what blue light does is it actually damages the cells in your body. And that's true for sunlight as well, okay? So it does damage it. There's always a double-edged sword with nature. It causes some damage, but the benefits keep the circadian rhythm in check. But nature's so clever, Bob. We know this, right? So what happens is, because there's full spectrum light in the sun, red light basically counteracts the negatives of blue light by healing, okay? It increases phosphorylation at the end of the ATP chain. Gotcha. and it basically allows for healing and restoring more energy to produce cellular repair from the damage that blue light is causing. But what have we done in artificial light? We've ripped that red light out of there. So we're just penetrating our eyes and skin with blue light all day, every day, which is causing this damage. Whereas if we had more red light in our life, we could heal some of those negative effects. So what I always say is, people that are on their laptops, have some red light around you, get outside as much as you can. And also there's red light therapy that you can use as well. And there's specific frequencies of red light that are more bioavailable and bioactive in humans. And that's why you see these red light panels out there now and people standing in front of these big sort of red light devices, because they heal and restore your energy. So red light heals, blue light damages. Blue light also causes you to feel awake, which is great during the day, keeps you feeling awake after dark, which is not good, but more red light after dark will help counteract that. And also blocking the blue light after sunset helps out as well. So I hope that kind of explains the two.
Very, very well. So you wouldn't want to use red light in the morning then?
Well, you actually can. So when the sun rises in the morning, it contains almost equal amounts of blue than it does red. Okay, so maybe slightly more blue, maybe a little bit less red. But there's also very, very high amounts of infrared light in the morning from the sun, and in the evening as well. And infrared light is a really, really good healing light. So a lot of the studies show that 850 nanometers, which is what light's measured in nanometers, is extremely healing, and it's present in the sun at sunrise and sunset. So you know, this makes complete sense from an evolutionary standpoint, because if you think about it from a sunset standpoint, you've been out in the sun all day long and you've taken in a lot of blue light and a lot of UV light. What do we need then to heal us? You need the infrared and red light, which is highest in the evenings and also in the mornings as well, I guess, after you've had a sleep as well. So it's extremely important not to harvest light, you know, it's not take it in its raw form and change it, because light is present in the sun in different frequencies throughout the day for these specific reasons. And as soon as we start manipulating that and messing around with nature, we're going to leave a lot of damage on the table at a cellular level if we're just bathing under artificial light all day, every day. And this is one of the reasons why I think that, you know, we have such an issue with metabolic disease in the world at the moment. And I'm not saying light is the cause of this, but far from it. I think there's lots of things. I think, you know, mental wellness is a big one. I think food and diet is a big one. Light is a big one. And EMF and 5G and, you know, Wi-Fi radiation, things like that are never going to be good things as well. They'll interfere at a cellular level. But light has this, you know, amazing ability to create the right or the wrong environment to do things in. So when you start looking at environmental cues for your clock systems and how light plays an impact, there's a really interesting study out there that compared, there's actually two. There's one that compared people exercising outside in the morning with exercising inside, and those that exercise outside lost more body fat than those that were exercising indoors, which was incredible. Yes. And they also felt stronger senses of well-being, which would have been the serotonin and dopamine. And there was also a really interesting study that showed two groups on treadmills inside exercising. And the group that had red light shining on them whilst they were exercising, the infrared and red light, actually lost more body fat than those that didn't have the light shining on them. So you can see how some experiments are starting to come out now that are showing just how big an impact light can have on you know, weight loss, for instance, but also on how you metabolize certain meals as well. I mean, I'm going a little bit off topic here, but whilst it's in my head, I think it's be good to talk about that. Sure. If you eat, say, a very high carbohydrate meal in the evening under blue light, you are going to process and digest that food very differently to if you were to eat that high carbohydrate meal, for example, in the mornings. When you start looking at it, once you've got a correct circadian rhythm, so you're spending a lot of time outside, you're blocking blue light after dark, you actually find that leptin, ghrelin, and all the digestive peptides in the gut are actually primed to digest whatever you want to eat in the mornings up until about midday. And then the ability to digest food decreases from midday onwards until it gets to a point where 2 to 3 hours before bed, you're going to be storing a lot of the calories you're eating as fat rather than utilizing it as energy. Because during the day, number one, like I said, those hormones and neurotransmitters are primed to digest that food and partition it correctly. But during the day, we need to keep active. We need to use that food for energy and moving around. And when we start eating it after sunset, the body's like saying to you, well, I don't need this as energy now. I'm winding down. My melatonin levels are high. My cortisol levels are low. Let's just store this as body fat, and then we can use it maybe in the coming days. So, you know, got to be careful when you eat as well, because light plays a really big role in how food is digested and how we utilize the macronutrients that we're eating as either energy stored as body fat or built as muscle, depending on what goals you have in your dietary regimes.
So are the lamps that they recommend for seasonal affective disorder, are those red light?
They're not actually, they're blue light. Now,
you gotta be kidding.
Yeah, I know. Now you're learning about this. You're now like, what is going on? So look, okay, I'll talk to you about seasonal affective lamps, okay, because they're a funny one. I like to compare them to pills, okay? So you go to the pharmacist, you go to your doctor, and you get a prescription because you're feeling tired. They pump you full of melatonin and you sleep better. then you become reliant upon that. And
Right.
then you start messing up your internal systems. You can't produce as much melatonin, or
Right.
take a dose and this, that, and the other. Those lamps are the same. You buy one of those lamps, okay? If you're feeling groggy in the mornings and you're struggling, you will get an amazing benefit straight away. You'll be like, wow, I'm alert and awake and I feel great. And then the efficacy of that will wane over time, because what's happening is you're giving yourself this quick fix, like a cup of coffee to get some energy, or a Red Bull or something like that. Yes, you get that quick fix, but at what expense to your health long term? If you're drinking a lot of, like, say, Red Bull, or, you know, you're drinking tons and tons of coffee that perhaps isn't, beneficial for you. If you're drinking lots of it to get that kick throughout the day, because one to start with is probably fine, but in 5 years' time, you're going to need 3 in the mornings. So with these lamps, you really want to avoid them as much as possible. And the protocol, because I know what you're going to say is, you're going to say, well, the sun doesn't rise until late in the morning in the Northern Hemisphere. And this is where you have to then think more about your ancestors, right? So number one, and I know this is difficult because we live in the Fordonian era where 9 to 5 is typically the normal, though, the current state of play at the moment means that there's a bit more flexibility in that. So what you need to do is, when you wake up in the morning, you need to be seeing what your ancestors would have seen. So they might have got up before the sun rose, but again, they wouldn't have been exposed to blue light. So don't flick on the house lights, don't look at your phone. What I tell people to do is, these red lenses here that I'm showing you, these block all the blue and green light from entering your eyes. So if you get up in the morning and before you turn on your lights, if the sun hasn't risen, pop these on, and you're then seeing what your ancestors would have seen. Then when the sun starts to rise, whether you're in work or whether you're on your way to work, undo the window of the car, go out for a break if you're at work, or if you haven't left yet, get outside, take these off. And then the first light, natural light you're seeing from the sun is then going to entrain your body clock. Now, it doesn't matter if it's cloudy, it doesn't matter if it's raining, you're still going to get that light for your eyes. Not in the same dose as in the summer, but this is where it comes down to seasonality of sleep and circadian rhythms as well. And a lot of people don't talk about this. During the summer months, you need less sleep. And the reason you need less sleep is you're getting more energy from the sunlight. So the sunlight is helping with the ATP production, along with hydrogen and oxygen from your food and your water. It's giving you more energy. You're getting more, you become more active during the day, and you actually need less sleep to recover. Whereas in the winter, because there's less sunlight, you're getting less energy. So you're going to need to sleep for longer. So this whole I need 8 hours sleep is not actually technically true. It's almost like saying women need 2,000 calories, guys need 2,500 calories.
Yeah.
Too generalized, right? Too generalized. So you've got to look at it as seasonality. Yes, you might sleep longer in the winter and sleep less in the summer, and that's fine. Your body is used to that, but it's just making sure that, number one, you're not using these sad lamps in the morning, but you're using something as simple as blocking the blue light. So you can switch on your house lights in the morning. You can look at your phone if you want to. As long as you're wearing these glasses before the sun rises, you're going to be, in fantastic shape and have a correctly entrained circadian rhythm.
I imagine that includes the TV, right? That's also
correct. Yeah, the TV's dreadful, and even things like, a lot of people that hear this for the first time will be like, well, I just put my phone on night shift mode. And it's like, okay, well, that's great. It still lets out blue light, by the way. I've tested it in the lab. But
no.
Yeah, I know. So basically I turn my phone red. Okay. So I've got a shortcut. So you can see my phone here.
Yeah.
I press the button on the side 3 times and it turns completely red. So I can send you the link on how to do that. So after the sunset,
please do.
Yeah, it's only red light. It's free to do. So it's really cool. But yeah, so people.
How would we get red light in the afternoon if we can't go outside? Is there
there absolutely is. Okay, so if you can't go outside, and what I'm about to say, like, none of these things can replace the sun, but I understand that we can't all go and quit our jobs and live in a field in the middle of Texas somewhere. You know, we can't do that. So we have to put biohacks in place, which is like hacking the environment around us to be able to keep our circadian rhythms healthy and kind of mimic what our ancestors would have lived in. So two of the things you can do is something like this. Okay, so this is a red light bulb. Okay, it's flicker free, it's low EMF, and it emits 630 to 660 nanometer red light. So this is like the gold standard of light. And you would put this, say, in a lamp next to your computer, or you'd have them in your house at ground level or wherever you want, in recessed lighting, in lamps, whatever really. And having this on is then shining red light into your environment. And if you're on your smartphone, laptop, TV, you're going to get a lot of the blue light from that, but then you've also got the red light balancing it out. Another good one, not as good as the red light bulbs, are salt lamps. Salt lamps give out more pinky orange light. So, you know, that's okay, but it's not as good as red. But, you know, if someone's listening to this, they're just wanting to get started, then that, and they've got a salt lamp in their house, then just have that near where you're sitting and exposing yourself to the blue light. So if you're on your computer, have it next to your computer. If you're watching TV, have it next to you, shining onto your skin, because you have receptors in your skin that can absorb light. And another good one is,
Andy, just real quick, with the red light bulbs. So is there I mean, if I go on Amazon and just find red light bulb, or is your website blublox.com?
Yeah.
Would it sell those?
Yeah, so we do the light bulbs at blublox.com. And we got the American, Canadian, and all the different fittings. So that's not an issue.
Right.
I'm sure there's other ones out there you could look at as well. But the issue that I've got with red light bulbs, and I've got a video coming out on my YouTube, I think in March, I've already recorded it, where I've purchased a few red light bulbs from undisclosed companies from Amazon. And I've tested them with my spectrometer, and the majority of them are still emitting some sort of blue light. You just can't see it with the naked eye. So you've got to be very careful. This is the thing. You've got to, if you want to go and buy a light bulb from Amazon, what I would suggest asking for is, can you send me a spectrum report for your light bulbs? And they should have this. Every light bulb manufacturer has to do this by law to show what spectrum of light is being emitted. And if any light below 600 nanometers is being emitted by that bulb, it's not emitting pure red light. So red light starts at 600 nanometers and finishes at 800 nanometers. So you want to see the spectrum report showing a graph spiking in those ranges, 600 to 800. And if any light below 600 is coming through, you're getting green and blue lights, which is going to impact your circadian rhythm from a negative standpoint. So you've got to be careful with that. Just from the test results I've seen from a random sample of these bulbs on Amazon.
What about the infrared light? I mean, is there a certain dose you'd like to get of that? Or, I mean, is there a certain way to get that beyond the sun? Or?
Yeah, absolutely. So red light therapy, again, full disclosure, we sell this as well. So red light therapy is harnessing red and infrared light, okay? And it's putting it into a device and it's delivering it in very high doses. The reason, as I've explained earlier, that you want to harness specific frequencies of red and infrared light is that the ones that are in red light therapy are highly bioactive and available in humans, which means that we can utilize them very efficiently for the positive benefits that they give you. We also got to bear in mind that there's a certain irradiance, which is like the power of the infrared light frequencies we need to achieve. You want it to be over 70 megawatts per square centimeter of power, ideally over 100, higher the better, because you can have lower irradiance, but you'll be sitting in front of red light therapy for like 7 hours to get the same benefit of say 5 minutes from the higher ones.
Sure.
So you get it from red light therapy. Okay, so you need 850 nanometers for the infrared, the near infrared, and that's the most bioactive, and that really penetrates deep inside the tissue and the bones, and it will, we've seen there's over 4,000 studies that's been done on red light and its benefits, and there's about 240 something that have been the gold standard of double-blind, placebo, peer-reviewed studies on this, showing how beneficial this frequency of light is to healing and restoring cellular damage. So, for instance, we've seen studies that shown improved thyroid function, improvement to arthritis, improvement to muscle soreness after training, rapid healing of wounds. So people that have maybe cut themselves and then use this type of light, it's healing in like 2 to 3 times faster than just not having this device present. We've seen weight loss. We've seen acne be helped. We've seen collagen increase in the skin, which obviously improves elasticity and prevents aging. We've even seen use of it sort of helping with certain metabolic conditions, such as some cancers. I'm not saying this cures cancer. I want to caveat that, but it's helping with the other treatments that people are having. So it's just this powerful tool that's really starting to gain traction now in this sort of wellness and alternative medicine.
This is so strange, because I just got contacted today online by a person I know, and they're having trouble with neuropathy in their feet, and their therapist is recommending red therapy.
Light therapy. Amazing.
And I didn't know anything about it. And he said, do you know anything about it? I said, I don't know, but I'm meeting with a guy today that I think can answer this. So 100%. Is there, as a practitioner, as a physical therapist that's going to provide this to him, can he be assured that it's the right red therapy or red light therapy, or is there something he should look for? Or?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, the 2 things they need to look for is, first of all, you need to understand what you're trying to treat. Okay, so if it's at a really deep level within the body, if it's muscular or a bone-related problem, red light's not going to help you. You need infrared. Okay, you need near infrared because it penetrates deeper into the skin.
Yep.
If you're looking to treat something at a skin level, collagen, acne, eczema, things like that, then red light is what you need. So that's the first sort of part of it.
Gotcha.
Most of these devices will contain both, by the way. So you can,
sure.
A good device will have both infrared and red. Then you can have them both on, or you can have them on separately, depending on what you're looking to heal. And the second thing is the irradiance. So you need to make sure that your device is generating enough power to be able to produce the best results. Because, for instance, this light bulb would not be, yes, it contains 660 nanometer red light, which is very healing, but the irradiance on it is so low that you need to sit in front of it for weeks before you even noticed anything, which is just not practical. Whereas when you find something that's over 100 megawatts per square centimeter, like the devices we do, for instance, and there's a few other companies that do them at that power, you'll find that just 5-10 minutes of that every day, depending on the situation. Like, for instance, if I had arthritis myself, I'll be using it 3 times a day, every single day for 5-10 minutes. You'll start seeing such amazing results within, I don't know, maybe 1 to 12 weeks. I know that's quite broad, but everyone responds differently.
Sure.
But like anything, Bob, it's consistent use. You're not going to it's not a pill. You're not going to put it on yourself one day and go, oh my God, I feel amazing, I'm cured. It's more helping with the symptoms, pain, but also after prolonged use, you start to see more healing and more cellular repair. So you just have to make sure you use it for long term as well.
Yeah, thank you very much for answering that question. It sounds very interesting. And now you talked about that's near infrared,
yes,
versus far infrared. So what is the difference?
Yeah, well, near infrared just becomes more bioactive in humans. Okay, so the far infrared light is more like used in lasers and things like that. It's much more intense. But the studies that have come out comparing the two have really shown that near infrared just has more benefits for us at a cellular level. Gotcha. It's as simple as that. Without going into the sort of deep science of the two, it's kind of irrelevant for far infrared light, because the studies have compared them and just have gone, actually, there's no comparison here. Near infrared light is so much more powerful. And how it sort of works at a cellular level, it all comes down to, and this might get a bit complex, but I think it's worth saying, and I'll try and explain it basically. The way it works, okay, is that you're looking at how a specific frequency of light can influence the production of adenosine triphosphate, so ATP, during electron chain transport. And the way that happens is that when you go through the 4 chains of electron chain transport, so this is when you take in light, food, water, it all enters this chain transport, and at the end result is energy, which makes us move and makes us have this conversation we're having now, for instance. Right. Now, at the 4th stage of this, there is a very important cytochrome there. So it's called cytochrome C oxidase, and that takes oxygen and it utilizes it to produce the ATP, the energy. Now, in the world we live in at the moment, we produce a lot of inflammation from pollutants, bad food, stress, etc. All the usual factors. And this also forms part of this electron chain transport, whereby oxygen is produced. So you've got your reactive oxygen species. You've got, all these sort of oxidant type inflammatory markers that come through. And what happens is nitric oxide increases and competes with cytochrome C oxidase for the oxygen molecules within this chain transport. So as we're using up the oxygen to fight the inflammation, neutralize all these like nasties that are happening in this chain transport, it leaves less oxygen to produce energy. So we're not producing efficient energy through the system with all the inflammation that we're having. Now, when they've been testing the red light, they found that the 660 nanometer red and the 850 nanometer near infrared light, when they tested all the different frequencies, were the most effective at neutralizing the nitric oxide, or the excess of nitric oxide, because some of it's good, in this chain transport, freeing up more oxygen to allow the reaction with cytochrome C oxidase to actually produce more energy in a more efficient manner. So when you start producing more energy and more energy efficiency, you free up more energy to be able to heal and restore. Because when you have low energy, certain processes within the body, as you'll know, Bob, start to reduce. Like for instance, if you have sleep deprivation, you can't think straight. Things dial down a little bit, and that's kind of what the population are running on these days. This dialed down version of themselves. Yes. Whereas when you get this red light therapy on your body every day and start treating this inflammation and allowing more oxygen available for cytochrome C oxidase to produce more energy and ATP, we actually start feeling much better, like in ourselves. We feel like we're running on like superhuman powers, but in essence, we're just bringing ourselves back to normality of how we should feel as humans. And going back to your original question of why not far infrared over near infrared, the near infrared neutralizes and frees up more oxygen than any other frequency of light in that spectrum, it seems, from the academic literature.
Let's go back once here, Andy. So if you're going to try to get it through natural sunlight, how much would you recommend a day?
Yeah, I mean, look, the best thing for you to do is be in the sun all day. Not possible, right? Right. And I'm not saying go out and sunbake all day long. When I say be out in the sun, be safe, be in the shade, wear a hat, things like that during high UV periods. That makes complete sense. But in terms of like minimal effective dose, I think is probably worth speaking about.
Yes, yes. Yeah.
In the mornings, I would say 2 to 5 minutes watching the sunrise is optimal. That's non-negotiable. You have to watch that sunrise. Again, don't have to be staring directly at it. There could be buildings around, but just being present in the light that is present around that time of day is enough to entrain that body clock. Then you can go back in, go about your day, do what you need to do. Then I feel you should at least have a sun break in the mornings and afternoons, okay? Just for a few minutes outside, you know, no sunglasses on for a couple of minutes, and just allow the sun to get into the skin and the eyes and basically tell your body what time of day it is. So your circadian rhythm is just getting the right messages throughout the day. Eat your lunch outside where you can. You know, the worst thing you can do, as I described earlier, is eat your lunch or eat your food under artificial blue light, because you're going to store more of it as fat than you are as energy. So go outside so your body knows, wow, it's the middle of the day. I can eat this food. I'm going to use it for energy, and I'm going to partition it correctly. So 5 minutes in the morning, 5 minutes mid-morning, eat your lunch outside as long as it's not pouring with rain. Then a break in the afternoon for maybe 5 minutes. You know, people go out and have smoke breaks in offices, so you're entitled to a sun break, surely. And if you can do it, watch the sunset again for 2 to 5 minutes. But I know that's quite difficult for some people, because it's like pick the kids up and cook dinner and things like that. And, you know, you'd probably be okay if you didn't watch the sun set in the evenings. And that's probably the minimal effective dose. So, you know, you're looking at an hour in the sun a day. But at various intervals. You know, you're not just going out in the morning for an hour and then locking yourself away. But the one non-negotiable, Bob, is the sunrise. Everyone should watch or be outside as soon as that first light comes up, without a doubt. Rain, shine, get outside, and you will find within a week that you will be bouncing out of bed in the morning just from doing that. You will just be like, I need to see that sunrise. Why? Because you'll love the dopamine and serotonin hit you're getting.
Awesome.
And you'll jump out of bed.
So really not that great of requirements. You know, so what you referred to earlier, through the window would be junk light.
Yeah. Yeah,
so
absolutely.
You couldn't watch the sunrise through the window.
No, absolutely not. When you start testing with a spectrometer the frequencies of light, you're getting a lot of blocking of infrared light. You're getting certain parts of the UV spectrum blocked, and also you're getting a reduction in most of the colors of the sunlight as well. So it's better than artificial light, but it's not as good as sunlight. And the major issue with sitting next to a window is more the UV component. What you find is, you know, the 3 types of UV, UVA, UVB, UVC, typically when they're in combination, yes, it's causing cellular damage from the sun, but you're also getting the infrared light when you're out there and the red light in the sun to help heal that. But what we're doing is, when you're sitting behind glass, you're filtering out specific frequencies of the infrared and the red, or filtering down, not out, I should say. Some of the UV's blocked because a lot of UV coating now on the windows. So you're really just, your body's like getting this light into its skin, and it's like, what is this light? Like I'm getting some UV, but not others. And it all starts just messing around with the cells. So my advice is, if you're driving in your car, just crack your window open a little bit, and then you're getting all that natural light through. You don't have to have it right down, just crack it a little bit. And if you're working in an office and the window can't be open and you're sat near it, then try and move and sit away from it if you can, because I just think it will just cause much more damage for you in the long run, sitting close to that window, which goes against what a lot of people think. They're like,
exactly.
Oh, it's natural light. But actually it's again, Alexander Wunsch, Dr. Jack Kruse are all saying this as well. And, you know, they've been pretty much bang on with all their theories in the last sort of 20 years, these guys, in terms of how light is wreaking havoc with us at a cellular level. So
would you just review the hacks that if you can't get out at all during the day?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I'll start during the day and then I'll explain after sunset. And one of the big things that a lot of people say to us is they say, well, what's the one thing I can do to counteract all this? And there is no one thing, okay? Because as I mentioned earlier, natural light changes in its frequencies throughout the day. So what you're doing at midday isn't going to be the same as 9 o'clock in the evening, okay? You need to change your hacks throughout the day in order to allow yourself to biohack to mimic what nature has intended for you to see in terms of light.
Gotcha.
So during the day, what you want to do is you want to balance out the light that's emitted from your screens, because a lot of people will be working on laptops, okay? Now, you want to balance out the light. So you want to be putting some red light around your computer area. And you don't want to eliminate blue light during the day. So you don't want to block it. You need blue light during the day. Like, I can't say that enough. You just don't need it in isolation. You need it with the other frequencies. So if you can't get outside, let's get a salt lamp next to your desk, next to your monitor. Let's put your smartphone on night shift mode during the day, because it emits a little bit of blue light, but not a huge spike of blue light. Let's potentially wear blue light filtering glasses during the day, which will reduce the blue light down a little bit, which allows it to then come more in line with the red light you're putting around your workstation.
Gotcha.
Maybe you'll want to put a few red light bulbs in and around your environment as well to allow more red into your life. And this is the big thing, because a lot of computer glasses companies out there claim that, you know, they have this clear lens, you put it on and it filters the blue light and everything's good. To a certain extent, that's correct in terms of, yes, it reduces the blue light down and it helps get less of that blue light. But what it's not addressing is the absence of red light.
Right.
So we need to put that back into our life during the day as well. Think of the colors of the rainbow again. So that's the big tip for during the day. During the evening, we should not see any blue light whatsoever. Our ancestors would not have seen it. They would have seen the campfire torchlight. So we need reds and oranges. So what you want to do is you want to be wearing blue light blocking glasses as soon as the sun sets, okay? Now, not all blue light glasses are created equal, as I'm sure you would have predicted I would say.
Sure.
The issue you've got, right, is that there was a really interesting study in 2002, which is the gold standard of melatonin studies. And it showed basically the melatonin curve. So what frequencies of light allowed melatonin to come through, and what frequencies of light allowed melatonin to be blocked. And what they found was that the light specifically between 400 nanometers and 550 nanometers was exactly where melatonin levels would decrease. Okay, so that's all of the blue light and almost all of the green light that's emitted from digital devices, TVs, and house lights. Yes, you can't see blue and green light from your house lights because it's typically a white or yellow light that comes out, and that's to do with the phosphorus reaction in the filament. But if you test it with a spectrometer, full of blue and green light. So you need to make sure that you're blocking 100% of the light that falls between 400 and 550 nanometers. And the only way to achieve this is with these sort of deep orange lenses. And again, if you're going to buy a pair of these lenses from anywhere other than Blublox, make sure that they send you a spectral test report that shows 100% of the light being blocked between 400 and 550 nanometers. If any light is coming in before 550 nanometers, those glasses are going to be useless. You might as well not wear them, because the brain doesn't care how much blue light passes into it. It still thinks it's during the day because there's no blue light after sunset. So these are Sleep Plus glasses from Blublox, and these block 100%. We got the spectrum test reports independently done, and we tested them live on camera as well on our YouTube channel, so people can see that they block. So sunsets, these go on. When you're ready for bed, which will most likely be 3 hours after you put these on, because people just can't stay awake with these on because they're just so fantastic. You're going to start seeing blue colors as black, and you're going to see green colors as sort of a darker green color, because some of the green still comes in after 550 nanometers, which is fine. It's just the green below 550 you need to block. And people think, oh, but I'll just see red everywhere. You don't. Okay, you still see yellows, you still see the reds, you still see, some greens and, other pinks and oranges. This is totally fine. But what you'll find is that this will tell the brain there's no blue light in my environment. Even though you're watching TV, even though you're on your phone, there's no blue light in your environment. So your body starts to reduce cortisol, increase melatonin, and your circadian rhythm will be correctly functioning, and you'll have more deep sleep, more REM sleep, more restorative sleep, and you'll wake up feeling fresh in the morning. You don't want to be taking these off at any time, Bob, during the evening. So when you're in bed, get all your lights switched off, then off these come, your head hits the pillow and you go to sleep. Or in your bedroom, as long as you don't mind the neighbors thinking potentially something dodgy is going on, you can put a lot of red light. You can put your red light in your bedroom as well. Okay, so you can take your glasses off if there's red light around and you're not using your phone or anything. You can take them off, and you can read under red light as well, which won't impact your sleep. So that's what you need to do. And another thing that you need to do to manage light these days is, unfortunately, the councils or the boroughs, I don't know what you call them in the US, they put street lights outside a lot of places now. Yes. And unless you've got blackout curtains, light can come in from the outside. And there was a study that showed that even with your eyes closed, light hitting your closed eyes, the blue light from outside, car headlights, neighbors' lights, maybe your partner's getting up in the night to use the bathroom and putting on the light, actually sets back melatonin production during the night as well. So what we also recommend is getting 100% blackout sleep mask as well. This one here, again, Blublox sell it, comes with adjustable eye cavities. So you can fully open your eyes with these on. So you put it on, you can fully open your eyes, and it's 100% blackout. Regular sleep masks aren't typically 100% blackout. And what they also do, they put pressure on your eyes, which isn't good over time. Things like glaucoma, eye pressure related disease could be an issue if you're constantly sleeping with a lot of pressure on your eyes. And we've seen a study that showed a 26% increase in REM sleep when people used a sleep mask and earplugs when sleeping, as opposed to the group that didn't wear a sleep mask or earplugs. So, these things are a big, statistical data there that's really positive. So yeah, just to recap, during the day, lots of red light around your desk and blue light filtering glasses, clear lenses. After sunset, you want the red, dark amber lenses that block 100% of light between 400 and 550 nanometers. Don't take them off until you're in a dark room. Red light in your environment as well, and also a good quality 100% light blocking sleep mask that doesn't place pressure on your eyes. And then get up and watch that sunrise in the morning. And it's as simple as that. It really is easy to fix. I'm not like touting something like, you've got to eat, to lose weight, you've got to eat raw protein and veggies every single day. Like, these are really easy things to do. You go about your life as normal. You just have to wear a pair of red glasses in the evening, watch the sunrise in the morning, and you're going to feel $1 million,
So I'm going to make the recommendation that you go to his website, because I think it's going to be, too much of a crapshoot to buy something on Amazon in this case. I know you can check into it, but it's just going to be a lot easier to buy from Blublox, BLUBLOX.com. I wanted one more question. I know we're running up against the time here, but seasonal affective disorder, is that really something that maybe we all have to some extent, and you see degrees of it?
Yeah, and that really, and again, that would probably the answer I'm about to give probably sounds like a loaded question, but it wasn't. I didn't know this question was coming at this time. That's the reason I moved from the UK. Seasonal affective disorder was destroying my life. Okay, there's actually a day in the UK. I believe it's the second Tuesday in February. Every single year has the most suicides, and it coincides with being. Yeah, it's dreadful. It's the same day every single year, and it typically is, to do with that is literally the deepest, darkest, hellish week or day in the calendar in terms of sunlight. Dopamine levels obviously plummet during that time. Serotonin levels plummet, and we just feel generally low. And this is to do with two factors. It's the lack of sunlight. Because in the UK and some of these northern latitudes, there isn't a huge amount of light present. So we need to be outside more during the winter, not less. But what do we do in the winter, Bob? We do the opposite. It's cold outside, so we go outside less.
Exactly.
And we stay inside more. But what is inside more during the winter? Blue light.
Blue light. Yes.
So we're getting cortisol levels from 6 in the morning all the way through to 10 o'clock at night because we're under this artificial light for that period of time. Whereas in the summer, it's less because there's more sunlight, so we're outside more. So in the winter, would our ancestors have seen blue light from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m.? No, they would have seen it from, say, 9 a.m. till 4 p.m. because they would have been outside with the red light as well.
Right.
So what we're doing is, a lot of people think it's a lack of sun. It's actually a lack of being outside during those winter months and coming inside more often under more artificial light, which is jacking cortisol levels through the roof and causing us to feel depressed and anxious and low mood, which then relates into this seasonal affective disorder. So my advice for that is the more northern latitude you are, the more you're going to have an issue with this. And it also comes down to ancestry as well. Okay. So, some real extreme northern latitude countries, like say maybe or places, say like Alaska or Scandinavia, they can maybe get 4 hours of daylight sometimes, which is shocking. But if they've evolved under that and you're an Inuit or you're a native of that region, it's not a problem for you. Not a problem. And why is it not a problem? Because there is in those northern latitude areas, what do they eat in abundance? Fish. What does fish do? It produces more DHA. What does DHA do? It produces more DC electric current when mixed with ultraviolet light, which actually produces a lot less inflammation than having less DHA in your body. So they have a natural mechanism to protect themselves. Now, if you're African or if you're say Central European descent like myself, and I go and live in Scandinavia, or the African person goes and lives in Scandinavia, they're going to have a massively hard time with that because their ancestry doesn't agree with it. Same as if an Inuit or a Scandinavian goes and lives on the equator, they're going to have a very hard time adapting to the light at those regions. So it comes down to ancestry as well. And I always encourage people to look into it. And I've moved to Australia. Yes, I'm not from Australia, but I have to take precautions to manage the light here. Like the UV light is extremely high. The ozone layer is an issue over here. So I have to plan my protocol to avoid very high UV days. If it's, over 100 degrees outside, then I'm inside, in the shade with the doors open. So I've got the natural light and the breeze coming through. But in terms of seasonal affective disorder, it is a major issue in these northern latitudes because a lot of people aren't ancestrally from those regions. But the hack is get outside more, like there's nothing more empowering in my mind. And this might be me being weird than walking in the cold or the snow or the rain.
No, I agree 100%. My wife and I call it cryotherapy.
Yes, I love CT. It's so good. Love that. And it's so healthy for you. It's been shown to lower inflammation. So get yourself outside.
It's definitely going to help if you have back pain or you sit a lot. you get those, you walk every morning and walk every evening, even if it's afternoon, even if it's for 5 minutes or 10 minutes, and you get your sun, and perfect. Well, I can't thank you enough, Andy. This has just been fascinating. I mean, I'm definitely going to try all this stuff myself, and I will again mention your website. Great name, I thought, by the way. BLUBLOX.com. It's Andy Mant, and I'm sure all the information you need can be found there.
Absolutely, yeah. I'd love people just to come check it out, have a read, and drop us a message. You know, if you have some questions, I always say to people, tell us about your situation, tell us about your current setup with light via our contact form, and my team will come and address that and say, right, based on that, this is what you'll need to do, and this is what products you might need to help you, and we can give you a bit more of a personalized rundown rather than say everyone needs this specific product, right, and away you go. So yeah, no, it's been a real privilege to be able to speak to you, Bob. And yeah, like I said, if we can help just one person from this, that's work done and made this conversation worthwhile. And it sounds as though we've achieved that anyway, because you're going to implement a few of these things.
I am one of my daughters, without a doubt. We're gonna be the experiment of two. So we're gonna give it a shot, and we'll report back to you. So
love that.
So thanks, Andy. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Bob. Thanks so much.
Take care.